Bayern have 7 games to play. They're 6 points clear at the top. They're still in the Champions League. They've got Inter in the next round, and they've also got something called the FIFA Club World Cup in June, but we won't bother too much about that. Joining us now for more is the European football expert and Bundesliga commentator, Kevin Hatchard. Morning, Kev.
Good morning, Kev.
Morning, guys. How are we?
We're in top form, mate.
Good. So, look, 6 points clear in the Bundesliga. Still in the Champions League, Inter in the next round. This is the year, it's got to be, hasn't it, that Harry Kane wins something?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Bundesliga is certainly the most likely of those. They were under pressure, actually, over the weekend because I did the game on Friday as Leverkusen beat Bochum, and that got Leverkusen to within 3 points of Bayern in the title race. But Bayern able to respond on the Saturday, and they beat St. Pauli 3-2. And in that game, Harry Kane scored a goal and made a goal, which means he's now been involved in 101 goals for Bayern in all competitions since he arrived, and that's only since the start of last season, which is pretty phenomenal going.
I was going to say, Kev, tell me, my memory's gone a little bit. He was getting a little bit of stick. Was it an ex-player, or was it somebody who was giving a little bit of stick saying he wasn't scoring in the big games?
That was earlier in the campaign, and that was surprisingly the only bit of negative press that he'd had, because it has been a bit of a loving for most of his time there. I think there's a real pride in the Bundesliga that they were able to kind of tempt away the England captain and bring him to the Bundesliga. I think Bayern certainly feel that way. But largely, he's had a pretty easy ride in the press, because the thing about Bayern is that they get more coverage than all of the other clubs in Germany put together. Anybody who thinks it's you're out of the limelight at Bayern, you are absolutely not. like it is a microscopic detail, and Bayern are big news, and every draw is a disaster, let alone a defeat. So, given that, I think it shows how he's carried himself, how he's played, that he's largely been, treated with kid gloves so far.
Look, he's 32 in the summer, Kev. We're little Englanders. Well, McCoist is a little Scotlander. Do you anticipate there's a chance of Kane returning to the Premier League, maybe even as soon as this summer?
I can't see it. I really can't. Certainly not this summer. He settled down in Germany. He's learning German. There was they released a video of that the other day. His German's about on par with mine, so we're having a good race in that regard. And I think if you listen to the way he speaks like a leader. He speaks like somebody who's very much ensconced within that group. He speaks as somebody who's very ambitious, and I think he's realised, A, this is an enormous football club, and B, they are going to challenge for the top trophies, because this is not the best Bayern team, and you've got Vincent Kompany, who of course has he's gone there as a bit of a surprise. People didn't necessarily think that was going to happen, but he looks as though he might win the league in the first season. And what's been really interesting about Kompany is that Musiala signed a new deal, Davies has signed a new deal, Kimmich signed a new deal. That does not happen probably under Thomas Tuchel, because he ruffled a few feathers. And I think he's brought back that positivity. And I think Kane's really thriving. I just can't see why he would terminate that 2 years in. And Bayern certainly don't want to let him go this summer.
It's an interesting one, and I agree with everything you said, Kev. However, I'm just thinking, I'm not sure time-wise he comes back to the top flight in England in 2 years at the same level he probably could now. But anyway, that's one that we'll need to wait and sit and watch and see. Kev, you named a few players that are, putting their future to Bayern Munich, which is all great and well. But one that seems to be on the way out would be Thomas Müller. And I read it a couple of weeks ago that he was looking forward to maybe having another year there. But is that in jeopardy now?
Yeah, it looks that way. It's been quite widely reported in the last few days that he's not going to get a new deal. And in some ways, I can understand that. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's closing in on 750 appearances for Bayern. That's more than anybody in the club's history. But he's done pretty much all of that as a top-level player and as a guy that would at least be a very useful member of the squad. If you look at this season under Kompany, he just hasn't had the minutes. and they've got so much quality. You know, Kane has that number 9 role locked down. Müller did get a run when Kane was out, but that wasn't for very long. And Musiala is the 10. So they're the only 2 positions he can play, really. And you've got Kane and Musiala ahead of him. I don't think he would want to just be a cheerleader. And that's kind of the way it's going. So I'd be really interested to see what he does. He's quite settled where he is. His wife Lisa's very involved in kind of dressage and things like that. They're very kind of settled in Bavaria. So I'd be surprised if he goes America or Saudi or something like that. I think it's more likely that he pursues being a coach, maybe staying involved with Bayern somehow in another role. But yeah, it looks as though as a player, it might be coming to an end in a few weeks.
Thanks, Kev. Keep working on the German.
I will.
Cheers, Kev.
Danke. Tschüss.
Dankeschön.
Wiedersehen.
You can't please some people, can you? Tommy says winning the Bundesliga is like winning the League Cup. Until Kane wins something big like the Champions League or Premier League, he'll always be a glorified loser. Oh, Tommy. Wrong.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.